Hi, Joe.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. You?
Always doing good.
Yeah. Oh, that's how I am. Always doing good. Even when I'm not doing good, I'm always doing good.
Listen, I figure if you wake up and things are still working, that's a good sign.
That is a great sign. That is a good sign. Yeah, I agree with you.
Hey guys, how are you? Good morning.
Good
Good
morning,
morning
George.
or good afternoon, George.
Andy, Joseph. Joseph, have you met Phil?
We
On the
saw
first
him
call
last
together.
week on the call, correct?
Okay.
Good to see you again, Joseph. And Andy,
Likewise.
good to see you.
Hello, Phil. Good to see you again.
I'm glad you got the memo for blue sweaters today.
I know it's Blue
yeah,
Sweater Tuesday. That's
At least we
hysterical.
know you're reading your
But
email, Andy. That's a good
It's,
thing.
it's not a sweater, it's a jumper, Phil.
Very good.
Oh, so funny. How's everybody doing?
It's a little cold. I went out for an early appointment. It was 13 below.
Oh, crikey.
Yeah, we're getting that. It's headed our way. Thank you.
Hey, we're being a team player here, just trying to help.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Little
it's going to be
niggles.
19 below. So I roll out of town at the crack of doom on Saturday, and it'll be 19 below. But the real feel, which, the wind chill, people make fun of the wind chill until you're in it.
Yep.
With the wind, it's 34 below. And Sid's already telling the dog, it's not happening.
Not today.
Well,
Not
they
today.
can't see cold, so he'll go running out and he'll, no pun intended, freeze and be like, no,
Exactly.
turn around and try to come back inside. It's like, no, you got to do your business. Then you can come back in.
Real quick.
Yes.
Yeah, but we have
Okay.
sun, which is nice.
Yeah, it's so often the case. And what a lot of people who don't live in this climate don't perceive is that it never snows. When it's this cold, it's typically sunny and beautiful because it's this
Yep.
big Arctic front. Yes, indeed. Okay, we want to take notes. I'm going to do a unrelated, but it's just such a handy tool. I have an iPad. I think we probably all have some version of this, but there's an app called Good Notes that was recommended to me by John Foster, and it is fantastic. For those of us who grew up writing and can't type quite as fast as our kids can, it's a game changer, and it will also convert pretty well into text. So anyway, there's a little useful or useless information. What's everybody been up to? We had a fantastic, so Phil was in the launch course last week, as was Andy. We had a fantastic, well, I don't know, I'm sorry. I thought it was really fun. So thank you, Phil.
Oh, I would agree.
And,
Got my head spinning.
Yeah. We're gonna have,
and me too. I would agree too.
yeah.
Great group. A really
Yep.
great group.
Yeah,
They're
looking
all,
forward to next week.
yeah, we're gonna have some fun. Hey Phil, there's more fire hose coming.
Hey,
Right.
George, thinking about next week.
Yes.
Are you going to record the outputs from the masterclasses? The financial masterclass Marie's going to run, and is there any way of getting that recorded so we can share that? I can have a look at it.
We are not currently set up to record,
Right.
but there's no reason, all you need, I have a wide angle camera. The problem becomes sound and
Yes.
just not picking up, but I have a lavalier. I'll take the stuff down with me and let's see if we can, Andy. There's no,
That would be great.
we have broadband and we have Zoom, so
Yeah.
and then we'll put those two master classes on as webinars.
Yes.
Going forward. So
Yeah.
we've got, I have you guys know me, I have to limit myself. So we have a full slate of webinars coming up, and they'll start the week after Charleston, and they'll be live and recorded. And so lots
going on.
more to come. Lots more to
Yeah.
come. Yeah.
Really good.
So it's the concept of we have a new classification of course called the launch course, I mean, the launch boosters, and the intent is it's kind of it's not a required bridge, but you can take the launch course, and if you take the launch boosters, you'll have a not very interactive increase in your understanding on core concepts from the launch course. And those will be they're designed to be more of a, as Andy calls them, chalk and talk. Now the certification workshop, then we go. So if we think of the launch course as 100 level, the boosters would be 200 level course. And then but the certification is kind of 400 level. We just jump. It's so intense and super fun. So I'm really looking forward to it. Hey,
Yeah.
Larry, how are you, man?
Good morning, good morning.
And Larry and I are going to be meeting this afternoon. So, Larry, Steve, Blue Shirt Tuesday, blue shirts.
Yeah.
You guys, that gray is Thursday's go.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to change. It's okay.
I'm just going to point and laugh. So, anybody have a topic they want to toss into the ring?
I did, I can't remember it.
I was told there'd be no math. Guys, go ahead, Andy, please.
Not a topic, but a point. Artificial intelligence is really interesting me at the moment, and Chat GPT is all over the internet, and I use also Copymatica. Anybody experimenting with Chat GPT beside me?
I did at your behest. So,
This is a game changer. I don't know what you think about it, Joseph, but what are your thoughts on Chat GPT?
So the best way I can compare it is kind of like EOS, right? Yeah, EOS is a great management operating system, but it's not really good at identifying strategy and what the rocks are, right? You need
Yes.
something external to do that, which,
Yes.
as we talked about, it could have been, some like core value or clarity, which is coming up, which will identify the rocks. In many ways, I compare it the same way. So it'll be a great system on the day-to-day stuff, but if you really don't know what you're focusing on, it's going to, spit out gibberish.
Yes.
In other words, it'll produce a lot more information than most people can handle. And I think if you really don't have a very good focus, you'll kind of get lost.
Yeah, Joseph, I found the same thing, and with Andy's help, if it's the skill is in asking the right question, right? So that's where they'll have to apply the AI to themselves, because you have to be, I mean, it's super fast. I asked it some questions inartfully, and then with Andy's help, he pointed me at some resources. And Andy, maybe you could throw those in circle.
I will do. I will do.
It actually does make factual mistakes, so you still need to review it. But
Yes.
a simple example of the type of thing that people, if there were only a handful of us using ChatGPT, then I think it would be a game changer. But just think of it for a moment. If now everyone here, I'm sure on the call, posts on LinkedIn, put something out there. Imagine now every single person is now going to put out 5 pieces of content a day on LinkedIn. People are just going to be overwhelmed by it. It doesn't matter how good the content is. What's going to happen is people will just ignore it. So you've kind of defeated the purpose. So in some ways, many areas of business will be democratized, but they will also make them less important, less significant. And I think it always will come back to the fact of what it is that makes you unique and how you're going to connect with your market or your client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Joseph and Andy, a question about it. So if I put in a good question around comparison of Da Vinci's use of color versus Rembrandt.
Yep.
Had that been populated already, that some human being had to put that information in from resource that already existed, and it's being a cute Wikipedia, or is it determining that on its own based on never been asked that before, but having access to that information?
I'm not sure of the algorithm behind it, but I would veer towards the second point, because
Right.
this is also AI and machine learning going on in the background here. It will be able to answer that question. I'm not quite sure of the algorithm for getting the answer to the question, but it will be able to answer it. I go with Joe in the sense that I wouldn't take everything at face. You still have to read it, but I played around with quite a bit of this sort of stuff. You do need to read it. You may need to do a plagiarize check as well to take if you're going to use it.
Always, yeah.
But it's a great springboard for ideas and stuff. But going beyond the content piece, with I think Joseph's right. Millions of users using this right now. So, and they're going to see that initial thing about content and so on.
Oh,
Frozen.
I think he froze.
Andy.
I
It's
read
interesting.
an interesting article from a professor somewhere that, related all of this AI to test taking. He said, we'll just have to give better tests. That the AI was, to your point, Larry, putting together information that's out there, not necessarily putting together new thoughts about that information. And so the professor said, look, this goes back to the 70s when, calculators first came out and students couldn't use those. And now everybody has it on their phone, and we've been able to adapt our learning to that.
Yeah.
So his point was we'll have to adapt our learning to the adding of AI to that equation. That was pretty interesting.
Phil, it's very interesting that you bring up this topic, because I'll bring up something that happened to me actually when I was in college. In my first year, the university had over accepted the number of people that they wanted in the program. There were only supposed to be 600, and 900 people came in. I guess more people accepted than they had to. They had to find a way to actually filter people out. This was in Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. They had a special aerospace engineering program. In any case, what they did was, in the first set of exams after people had come in September, so talking about December, January time, what they did was they intentionally they gave everybody a calculator, and they had some mathematical questions that they had asked in some subsections, which were simple things, right? Like, simple math that you should be able to do in your own head. Those who relied on the calculator, they were programmed to produce a wrong answer. And what they wanted to do was to see whether or not you had the critical thinking skills to be able to do it on your own, or if you really depended on the calculator to do it. So, and a lot of people failed. I think more than half the people, had failed the exam because of these type of things. And they filtered, I think, like 30% of the people out after the first set of exams. But why do I bring up that point? Critical thinking, ChatGPT is going to remove a lot of the critical thinking skills that many people have that allow them to do some of the work they do. And in many ways, it's going to dumb down the capabilities of kids. I see it with my own children, for example, the type of requirements they have in school, or they had in school recently, is much lower than what I had when I was in school.
Yeah.
And it's reflected in their work, or I should say their capability to produce high quality, good product. And I think that's going to have this, the ChatGPT and all this AI stuff is going to remove your skills from being able to develop things that are very valuable. I mean, even think about computer programming, right? I mean, it requires, going through the process of writing code makes you a critical thinker. The trial and error that you have to go through, makes you a critical thinker. Remove that, because now you can just use code that is already existing in the world. Yeah, you might be able to produce a product faster, but you're not really bringing anything special to the table. So it's going to devalue it will devalue you in the world.
Well, along that line, I read an article as well that with cell phones and email, the part of our brain that has to react is getting overworked, and the part of the brain used for deep critical thinking is being underworked. So the gist of this article was, take this out 4, 5, 6 generations of the development of our brains. What is going to happen to that evolution of brains when we don't do the long, deep critical thinking any longer because we're too busy reacting.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take 4 or 5 generations. I think if I look at the difference between even my generation, my kids, the difference is staggering. And it's all, you can see the correlation with technology in a very direct way. I mean, my kids, my oldest one is 30, my youngest is 15, 16. So I've been, through the process where, cell phones were a thing and where it is now. So I see how it's applied, and the level of education capability and grasp and critical thinking is huge between, just in that 15, 20 years. I think one more generation, I think we're going to have a problem with what I would call mental midgets.
It's funny. Because the human brain is we still have a fantastic brain. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, right? Because you can view, it'll be interesting. My kids I have one kid who's a biology major at Villanova but a philosophy minor, and then I have 2 other philosophy majors, and it's hard to see how ChatGPT will. So this is an interesting, I've never thought of this before. So so like ChatGPT isn't going to help you discuss the Kantian dialectic compared to Hegel, right? I mean, you might be able to, you might use it as a research assistant, which is maybe how business advisors can use it, but you're not going to be able to use it to do that finished work. And whoever made the point about closed book exams, I think closed book exams are screaming right up on kids because we have to force their brains to do these exercises. And what's going to be interesting is how does this play out in the market, right? So you have the people who develop critical thinking skills. Will they outperform in the workplace? And will that therefore, we start creating frankly, an incentive to become, I don't know, a philosophy major because you get better jobs, et cetera. It's fascinating.
It certainly, in terms of that critical thinking piece, I was involved in that work and consulting work in Abu Dhabi at the end of last year around the future skills required based on megatrends, etc., for the Abu Dhabi government. When we identified the competencies, all of the thinking skills were extremely high on the list of future competencies required. And I think this is playing out in that way. Those are skills of the future that will never go away, are assuming greater importance in the workforce, I think, because of this. But the other point I'd like to make is, in England we have a saying, are we being Luddites? AI is here. This is first generation GPT. I mean, this is brand new stuff. It's going to get better and better and better. So is there a place for using AI in order to enhance critical thinking, in the sense that, the key to something like ChatGPT is the questions you ask. And so if we think critically about the type of questions and the type of work we want AI to do, that may help us in our research to, as a stepping stone to something else. So, I don't know how this is going to play out. I'm just thinking myself and sucking up as much as I can about how best to use this AI technology. But it's a thought. It's here, so let's not resist it. Let's think, how can we best use it, and also encompass critical thinking skills to use it in the best possible way. I don't know.
There's a lot of theories out there that, being a leader and using a new technology is a great, is a great advantage. But I've read in several places that sometimes you're better off being number 2. In other words, let someone else use it, work it through, make the mistakes, spend the money.
Yes.
And then once, things kind of settle down, you can take advantage of it. And I think that ChatGPT is going to be one of those use cases.
It's interesting. Paul, you're literally a rocket scientist. What do you think?
I've tried it a couple of times. I've also tried the companion program that OpenAI has called DALL-E for creating pictures.
Oh, interesting.
And you give it a few words, you tell you what you want, and it creates a picture for you. And I've tried that. I've actually used one of the pictures on an Eventbrite invitation for R&D leaders for a peer group. And it's funky looking, but I figured that was appropriate for R&D leaders, kind of thing. I was talking with my fraternity brothers about it, and I said, you know, I was learning, you know, how to add the words to get it to make what I want. And one of my older fraternity brothers said, "Oh, you mean the AI is teaching you how to use it?" And I thought about, yeah, it is. It's trial and error to make it work, and I'm being taught how to use it. Now, I've used the Chat GPT a couple of times just to try it out in the research mode, and it is damn good. Uh, you know, I asked for a 100 words explanation of nuclear physics. It was good. Yes, I read it, and you know, it could not have been plagiarized from someplace by saying 100 words and a couple of other things I did with it. I had an article in Wall Street Journal how people have to write descriptions of houses and real estate. They're using it, so they're finding that they can cut out an hour of their time by putting in the information about the house and having Chat GPT create the description. So that's a perfect example of where there's not a high value to the activity you're doing. It's repetitive. And if you can save time, that's worthwhile.
Yeah.
So
When I hear everyone speak, it's to me that what we are concerned in society about, where AI can lead us negatively, this is not it. This is taking a search engine to another level, where it, instead of saying in Wikipedia, provide for me information on nuclear physics, and getting 20 pages, here you're putting conditions on it and saying 100 words. And it has the algorithmic strength to think that through, wrong word, think, process it through, instead of giving you the 20 pages Wikipedia would give you, to give it to you in just 100. But there still has to be the human genius behind it to set those algorithms in place. I think where we're all concerned in society is when AI thinks for itself and creates its own algorithms and starts then moving our thought in a direction that it influences our thought. And I don't see that this being there yet, but and then generationally, we're all sounding old. Every generation thinks the next generation has no is losing an aspect that is sacred to that generation.
Lazy and stupid, right?
Right, right. And we see this even in the military, right, Andy, where that older generation thinks this younger generation will never perform. And they probably thought of that when you were new to the RAF, that you being a young kid weren't going to be able to perform like the old timers.
Oh, definitely. And I'm beginning to be a bit like that, you know, and thinking I'm sounding like my granddad did, you know, and I'm thinking with my kids. But the great thing about that I've learned, and we've all learned through our experiences, we are great adapters. We are great, you know, we find a way, and you know, and Joseph's right about the dangers of this, but the positives. I saw a guy, Mike Koenigs, you guys might know Mike Koenigs. He's running his technology webinar, and he's going to show us how he used looked at the websites of his 3 competitors, and he put it through AI to improve it, etc., to generate words for a new website, which took the best of his competitors' stuff, etc., and changed it around. He said normally that sort of thing would take him 3 to 4 weeks. He did it in 3 to 4 hours for a client, a paid client. Interesting. Very interesting.
Hey guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on using something like ChatGPT for as a research assistant, right? When we're trying to help our clients, how do we very efficiently, and we've talked about automation previously in the Coffee Klatch. Can something like ChatGPT help us scale, you know, create additional capacity?
Here's
The
how
answer is yes. I happen to have taken a course in AI a few days ago, and everything you guys have just said is pretty much a summary of the course. it's good as long as you give it the appropriate guidance, and you do have to double check it once you get the results. But there's, in the course I took, there was 3 or 4 different AI tools, and one creates images, as was mentioned here. I noticed the guy that taught the course, he's a prolific poster on LinkedIn, and today he had an AI generated image of himself as his post on LinkedIn. I think Canva has AI attached to it now, so you can do all sorts of image creation. There was another tool like ChatGPT that I don't remember the name of, but he gave it some guidance to create an article on XYZ, and voila, there was the 2-page article on XYZ. And of course, it needs to be proof checked, but in terms of your point, George, yeah, this is really going to be an aid for scaling. This guy that taught the course, he knows how to make it work versus me, but he showed a couple of examples where he uses it to generate comments in response to comments on his LinkedIn posts. And again, he has to check it, but it does a halfway decent job of providing the initial cut. So anyway, I think once you know, he showed another example which is relevant to this. He said, give me the top 10 problems that XYZ owners face, and spit it out.
Yeah. Here's how I'm using it in a simplistic way with a client now as a tradesman. This was writing a telesales script. So, write me a whatever telesales script using the Sandler method of sales, and so it produced a script. I look at the script, I say to myself, it teaches me, let's refine that. So picking out various words or phrases within the script, can you now write a script that blah, blah, blah. And, by the time I got to the 4th iteration, that's a telesales script, which I can then proofread and look and give to my client to say, here's an idea, use that to think about your telesales script. Does that work? Is it too long? And so that process, and the same for any process, write me a sales generation process. So and then iterate it through learning, and then that's something you could pass to a client to say, now have a look at that and let's work together to make that better together. So it's a great start point. That's in simple ways I'm experimenting with it.
And
one of the interesting things is that you can put nuance into it, because in this course he gave a couple examples of, okay, that's make it sound professional or make it sound whimsical, and it'll come back and behave, give you words along those lines.
Yeah, and I was going to say to you and George, to your answer, how it would relate to us specifically. The way I would look at it is, for example, let's assume that you do a valuation or a process analysis for a client, and it produces a list of 80 tasks, and each of those tasks might have different number of people involved in it, and you would say to it, okay, you could put parameters, whether it's by ROI or time to completion or something of that nature, and with bits of, after a little bit of work, you just turn around and say to it, okay, Gantt chart this out for me, by highest ROI or by shortest time, or perhaps by both, or something of that nature. It would turn it back to you. And then could you work on it, refining it a little bit? Then you could say to it, after you've done all that, say, okay, take this and convert it into code, right? And now you would have yourself a little program where you could have, for example, spitting out, something would spit out a list of tasks, and you'd have the parameters for it, and then you'd be able to process it and say, in very short order, take something that might take, let's say, a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, to produce a project plan, so to speak. And now you'd be able to produce a project plan in, whatever, 3 minutes, 5 minutes for a client. So I see it like that, taking, complex tasks that are repetitive and making them happen, much quicker and faster than what a human could do. But you would still have to be smart enough to be able to identify or let the ChatGPT know what it is that you're trying to accomplish.
Makes sense. That's a good example.
Another application that I'm, it's on my freaking long list of things to do.
I was about to say, save that, the last thing you need, my friend.
I'll put into Circle a Chat GPT cheat sheet. I'm with a client at the moment, but when I get home tonight, I'll put it into Circle, and it's
Mm.
you know,
Good. Thank you.
and we'll start that thread, AI an AI thread.
Good idea.
I love it.
In
Yeah.
my case, if you're thinking about writing a book, you can't say, "Hey, Chat GPT, write this book," but you can say, you know, I need, 300 words on a particular topic. Have that at Chat GPT or another tool, and you've got a starting point.
Yeah.
It's funny because I see content as the least valuable element of Chat GPT. I think, the way it can affect
Yes.
processes,
Yes.
I see that as the most valuable side of it. Listen, we all look at LinkedIn. How many of us read all the different posts that are posted by our connections on a regular basis? We don't. And there's a
Yes.
handful of people that have no life and they spend their entire day,
Yes.
going through TikTok and LinkedIn and whatever. But the rest of us don't have time for that nonsense. We need to use it as a tool that will help us grow and scale our business. Outside of that, I don't see it's very valuable.
I wonder
So you just suggested to me what I really need is a reader GPT
Yeah.
that would go through all that crap and give me a daily summary.
Yes. Very good. With Chat GPT, the other AI that I'm playing around with is Copymatic.ai, and that's a much more granular, detailed bit, and so you can do a lot more with Copymatic AI. It's almost I could take Chat GPT, put it into Copymatic to refine it and play it. But anyway, this is my sad life at the moment. I think and thinking in terms of how can I use it for growth drive and for clients and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
So can I use
There's
that,
another
Andy?
simple. Go ahead, Larry.
No, I was going to use that at the bridge to something else, not your sad life, but growth drive. So, but Steve, you started. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, there's another lower level that I've got this note taker, which for some reason didn't show up this morning. But there's at least two or three of those around that you can hook up to Zoom meetings, and it does a damn fine job of transcribing everything that was discussed and can even highlight who said what and all that good stuff. So anyway, that's just another example of useful AI.
Yeah, there's a otter.author.ai is excellent. Also, you can feed video, audio into it.
That's what I use.
Yeah.
The competitor, one of the primary competitors, Fireflies.ai.
Fireflies, yeah, which we've seen. Yeah, it's first time it showed up in a meeting. It's like, who's this? Wow, this is a fascinating conversation, guys. This is a net new topic for us. Very cool. I'm wondering, it seems to me Chat GPT is at capacity right now. So I wonder if we could use it to do, I'm going to experiment with doing research. And that's, if there are ways to bring efficiency and what would be fun is, somebody is starting a thread, Andy is on this in Circle. And what would be fun would be to start developing, not as a formal exercise, but start developing on that thread, developing best practices. So that we can all benefit.
Which would include, to Andy and Joseph's point, the questions we need to ask to get the right output.
You get markedly small tweaks in a question can give a distinctly different output. The first couple of questions I asked, I didn't know what I was doing, and bottom line, and Andy got me squared away.
George, that's an interesting issue, because if you're in different parts of the country or different parts of the world, you may ask the same question, but because of cultural differences and language differences, even if it's all in English, let's say,
yeah,
okay, the way you ask things and talk is totally different. So if you're asking a question and you ask it the wrong way, you may not know you're asking it the wrong way.
I can have it write an article in Yoda. You're absolutely right, Barry. And you have to have the baseline knowledge to ask the right question, right? You can't just show up as an ignoramus.
And of course, we can test that because you guys across there don't really speak English. So, you know, I can ask the question and send you the same question, see what you get the same answer.
It goes back to the whole jumper.
I just posted in chat a post on LinkedIn that this instructor made with regard to asking appropriate questions, just over the way.
Awesome. Very cool. We live in a fascinating world. You know, I held this thing up at the beginning of the meeting. I mean, just this more than the sum of human knowledge, not even on something this big, right? On our phones. It's going to be, I'm interested to, I love technology, obviously, and see how it plays out.
Put that in context. Watch Apollo 13 and you see all those huge computers in the background, and the guys that, you know, we got all that in the mobile.
Yeah, there's more technology. I remember this was 20 or 30 years ago. There was more technology in a Volkswagen. That was their ad, right? There's more technology in this car than there was in the lunar mission, which isn't hard because those guys were up in space with slide rules for crying out loud. Who here had to learn how to use a slide rule I had to learn in high school. Yeah.
For the elderly on the call, you guys remember punch cards for creating
Okay, now we're old.
Heck, Steve, you used an abacus.
We're putting our bona fide on a bunch of old guys talking about technology.
Yeah. Steve still uses an abacus, but you know.
Hey, you
I
travel
had
in
a
the third
different
world enough,
topic.
you'll see the abacus, by the way. Or the
I had a
developing
different
world.
topic, but yeah, I see it getting late. I'll throw the topic out, and it comes really from John Foster, who posted on Circle
Okay.
about as we evolve, grow the methodology away from core value to clarity within the growth drive methodology. How do we take that and present that to prospects? What visuals can we use? What story can we tell? And he was speaking specifically in Circle around getting a group to buy into a workshop that he runs, where you use in our case, the 24, 25 clarity questions and have a discussion around the 3 dimensions of growth. And so it got us thinking, how do we now start getting together? What are those visuals? What are the stories we tell to our prospects and to our clients that move them to a different direction? And that, that's something that could evolve. That could be open topic next week in Charleston. It's something this group could talk about, a subgroup. But I just want to pose it in terms of simple storytelling, storyboarding, visuals for different needs.
I'll drop this in. That is a fabulous question, Larry, and I'd seen John's post. Do you guys mind if I share my screen, and I'll plop this into Circle? I'm going to share my screen for just a sec and get this out of the way. Go away. Thank you. Can everybody see? This? It's an Excel spreadsheet. Can everybody see the words?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. So clarity is core value is gone, right? Clarity is a very, very different animal, and clarity's real intent is to help us and maybe more importantly, help our client understand their current capacity for doing X, Y, or Z, right? And what the report is what the analysis is going to give us, I mean, sure, it's going to show what the business could be worth at the bottom and the top end of the range of multiples. It doesn't calculate a value for the business, just says here's your worst case if you can monetize, and here's your best case if you can monetize. And we have 3 different scores And those scores are the growth capacity, the value capacity, and then the strategic capacity. And that is a very different animal. This helps. So our goal is, it's not a hope, it's a goal, is to help the client, it's help tell the client, tell themselves, right? They want to hear themselves, tell a story about, all right, we have 3 dimensions of business growth. I want to grow. I want to make my business easier to run. That's predictable cash flow. I want to grow, sustainable growth, and I want to transfer value, right? I want to monetize value. And this is the beginning. Larry, can this be a building block? And can these be building blocks in creating that story?
I think the start point is the 3 dimensions of growth, and
Yep.
what are the goals and objectives of a particular business owner in different areas.
That's right.
And
And by the way, the Clarity Level 1 report does score them on the 3 dimensions of growth. But then on a weighted basis, we start looking at it in line with, because you can't look at their dimensions, right? They're interrelated. And so you can't look at them you can't say, well, my predictable profits and cash flow score is 72, so I'm good. It's like, well, okay, maybe if that's all you want to do with your business, then great, let's tighten that up and away you go.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, that becomes I'm sorry to interrupt, Larry.
no, right on track together. What we have to do, we throw terms around all the time, and we know what those mean, but business owners don't. Some are more educated than others. So the word growth might be something different in their mind than ours. What is that? And what John was really referring to beyond the visual, the technical, is the emotional.
Yeah.
And where are they at? What is their emotion around where they're at, where they want to go? What are those gaps? And what would mean to them to achieve that? And what would it mean to them if they don't achieve it?
Yes.
And how would they feel?
Yeah.
And playing off of some of those emotions, as John was saying in our email, George, to the both of us, Office Circle, is what he wants to be able to tell a story around using some key visuals that line up with who we are in Growth Drive.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's another aspect here for Growth Drive, and this is, what is the bold promise of Growth Drive for business owners? That bold promise that we can tell the story around results, because that's what the business owners are after. So what is the bold promise that we can make in terms of results that Growth Drive will give the business owner? And I think that needs to be articulated. And first of all, we need to understand what will be the ingredients of that bold promise. What I'm thinking about, it could be numerical or qualitative, but numerical, a 20% year-on-year growth, a 5% increase in net profit, or whatever it is, but and a really bold promise for Growth Drive, I think would be extremely useful in telling that story.
I wonder if I could get some free advice here in the time remaining. I was filling out a marketing questionnaire this morning, and like all marketing questionnaires, you have to give one answer. So relative to that task that I had in Growth Drive, what is the statement that you would make to a business owner to entice them or to make them think that taking the clarity assessment is a good idea?
I think.
So,
Yeah.
gentlemen, I'll chime in a little bit. Joe Lorenz, some of you met me before, but I'm in the sunny Columbus, Ohio. Thank God it's sunny. One of the things that I would like to share with you is something that we promote within EOS. It's EOS Life. And it's really, in the essence, there's 5 things: doing what I love, with people you love, making a huge impact, being compensated appropriately, and with time for other passions. So clearly you're on the right track and going after the emotional heartstrings. Unfortunately, people look for you from a monetary perspective and expect
numbers to come in these presentations. So, but there's clearly an opportunity to doing what they love with people they love, making a huge impact, being compensated appropriately, which, you know, you need to know the value of your company. You need to know how you're valued in the marketplace, right? And with time for other passions is, I spent a lot of my time as a executive coach is coaching them to say, what are they going to, right? So when they get to the altar, when it comes to the sale day, they don't get cold feet and they don't regress and decide not to go through with the deal, right? So part of this preparation is understanding what are those things they're not doing that they could be doing if they could have the scale of the people, you know, the growth capacity you're talking about. But it all starts with the head, getting into the head of the owner. What are they running to versus, you know, being pulled away from? Just a different way of looking at it.
No, Joe, you're spot on. We focus a lot of energy, we place a lot of importance on, and we are going to continue to work on in Charleston on the growth conversation, which is a conversation that has several objectives. One is to qualify the I should ask Phil to answer this question. You just went through the question. One's to qualify this business as a business with whom we want to work, right? We don't have to work with everyone who comes along. Two is to make sure that, Larry, right, we've created we've identified the ultimate goal. We've asked why enough times that we're very confident, and more importantly, that our client is very confident on where we want to end up. And that can change, but right now, based on the information we have now, that's where I want to end up, and that we create that emotional connection. You know, what happens, and that's it, the goal implicated out of Mark Roberge's book, Sales Acceleration Formula, the goal implicated. And what happens if you don't? You know, if we get them to really identify the ultimate destination and to verbalize what happens if they don't create everything that it takes to get there, that's very, very powerful. And we're trying to create, and it's not voodoo, right? This is a legitimate coaching them to a better understanding of where they want to go. And then we start understanding the business's capacity for getting from its status quo to that goal. And so, Joe, thank you for bringing that up, because it's a critically important aspect. And as we just went through, and I'm on my soapbox, I'll get down one sec. But as we go through the entire, from analysis to redesigning the business to executing that design, always confirming that we're still headed towards the same goal. We're starting to create buy-in that gets pushed out into the senior leadership team. Do we have buy-in? Do we have the right people, et cetera? And I won't go through the whole class again, but yeah, you get me fired up, Joe, because it all goes back to that initial conversation. So thanks, Joe. Sorry, guys.
I just put in
sucked all the wind out of the conversation.
What was
great, Joe.
What was interesting, I'm taking that book around now as my Christmas gift in January to all my clients, and saying, because it really does remind ourselves, all this said and done, what is our other passions? What are we driving? If you can't determine what is your passion and have passion for, congratulations, you have a job, right? So we got to reframe the question and get into the minds of these guys to say, how do we, it's more about, the money is certainly important and to get all the growth forever, right? But you got to get real clarity about where it is you want to go. And I find that just to be so helpful.
Joe, something you just said, where do each of us want to go? Because we're on the same journey, right? And we should be doing the same deep thinking. And it's something Barry and I, something we work on in business advisor peer groups, the ultimate goal and the strategies to get there, and then the peer-to-peer support for getting there. And it sounds like a shameless plug. It's not. It's because it's so deeply impactful. So
I told my clients when they say they want to retire, I say, what do you want to retire to?
Yeah.
because you have to retire to something. At least that's my opinion, okay?
Yeah.
Based
I mean-
on personal experience. You just can't just sit there and whittle away. So what are their passions?
You know what's funny, Barry? We asked this down in the last time we ran this clinic. Remember, Larry? We ran this clinic down in, I think Steve was in the room, down in Charleston. And we asked, you know, who here wants to, who here is going to retire? And there was kind of a half-hearted, but then I asked, well, I don't know about you guys, but I just want to be able to work on my own terms. And that all the hands went up. And that's, you know, that's an important thing. And I think we as a community are lifelong learners and are deeply committed. You know, I don't know what our median age is, but we're not young guns, right? We're old war horses.
George, to your point, Ed is on the call, and Ed, I've never shared this with you. One of the things I admire most is, you know, you're now a great grandfather, and you're coming up with new ideas for your business, and
And deeply
that's just
passionate
amazing.
about it. Yeah. Yep.
But I think that's what keeps us firing is that innovation creates action in your mind that lets you know you have a lot you can give and a lot you can do,
Yeah.
but you don't willingly sit back and say, I'm too old, I can't do anything, I don't know anything, everything is running so fast past me. And the answer is negative. If that's what you believe, then that's truly what will happen.
That's a fact. You know what we're all, you know what we all live? Talk about a bunch of super engaged individuals, right? We're all deeply engaged. And that's when we look at our clients and we say, hey, well, you need your people to be productive. We're going to help you get your people productive and loyal, which is sort of longhand for engaged. That's why we all live every day. And guys, I was on yesterday for over an hour with an investment banker, pretty sophisticated investment bank. And he shared something fascinating, and maybe I'll drop off after this comment, but you just heard the chime that tells me I've got 10 minutes till my next thing. He was saying that private equity right now, so we have the economy is taking, you know, there's still a lot of capital, and private equity is looking for quality. One of the new metrics, one of the things that's emerging is private equity wants to understand employee engagement, and they will put a premium on employee engagement. And we talked a lot last week about strategic culture and employee, you know, productive and loyal or engaged employees. Guys, fascinating time, right? And I think I don't think there's anyone in this community who isn't deeply engaged in their advisory business, and frankly in their clients' businesses as well. Some fun stuff. I just love working with you guys. I can't thank you. This is a great
Steve, let
conversation.
me throw this out there to you, and I think, Larry, this kind of answers partially answers your question. I think the engagement process with any client is always starting with a problem, a pain point. You know, to a large extent, we know what is wrapped around in the problem set or the pain points for a typical business owner. But I think a sales presentation, you know, should be really short, maybe 4 to 6 slides. You may have a set of, 10, 12 slides, but you would pick and choose based on his, comments and questions. You could put out there what the current state is, and you'd ask him what are his goals, what are his problems. You might have a picture, with 5 or 6 or 4 or 5 of the main problems, not enough time for himself, or he's not generating enough profit, or it's not consistent, or whatever. And based on what he would tell you, you would click on that point. It would take you to a next subset of slides. So you're really having a conversation with him about why he's here, why he's reached out to you, what are his pain points, and then you're narrowing it down to be able to present to him what the possibilities are and how you might get there. So you might have a set of 15 slides, but the goal is to have a couple of key slides that will guide that conversation down to starting from where his problem is and what the possibilities are, and how you get there.
Joseph, that is a fantastic point. And I think one of the undercurrents here between what you've just said and what Joseph has said, and I know what everyone on this call believes, is if we sit down and put 30 slides up about the features and benefits of doing business with us,
Nobody
we-
cares.
Nobody cares. It's that alphabet soup behind all of our names, right? I mean, we are some learned cats, right? But the clients don't care about that. Joseph, your point's fabulous. Let's focus on the 4 or 5 slides that promote a conversation, to promote the right conversation.
Even to the point of, I've been doing some of this work with Ed, and we do a kind of a, 2-part deal where he starts to talk about growth drive, and then I get into EOS. And one of the things that we fail to think about is, how can we make it more interesting? Could we do that growth drive thing by hand, right? And just circle, walk through as you talk, you build this and by hand, versus having all just boom, it's all the data's right there and the mind's looking at it and it's like, okay, where does my eyes go? And I've just sensed that in that presentation that Ed's done is, as well as it can be. I often find that maybe we should build that maybe just through a 3 decks, a 3-slide building, but somehow things fly in, and kind of as you talk through it, it might help the reader or the viewer understanding that triangle a little better. Just thought.
Yeah.
They want to know what the possibilities are and how that might work, and what's the plan to get there, but they really don't want to hear about your product, honestly.
No, that's right.
Exactly.
Right.
That's right. Hey, guys, I have to drop off.
Yep.
Thank you. Paul has to go as well. Well, maybe
Yep.
if everybody has to go, let's we
Yep.
can end it here.
Wrap it up.
Listen, Phil, Joseph, Steve, Larry, Barry, Paul, Joe, Ed, and Andy. What a big group today. This was super fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
See most of you next week.
Right,
Yes.
have a great week.
Andy,
Absolutely.
I think you should reconsider.
Next time. All right. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
see you.
Be well. Be well.
Be well, everyone.
Well,
Have a great
thank
week.
you.
Bye.
Song.